Hello ladies and gentlemen, it is me again, Insane Gorilla, and welcome back to my channel. As you've most probably read in the title, this is What If Luffy from One Piece had, well, angel powers. Or as it's actually called, what if Luffy was an angel? Now, you may be asking, why Luffy? You haven't done one of these ever since you did the What if Luffy was an assassin? Now, the assassin one, I will admit I did screw up on, majorly. I will freely admit that I had screwed up on that one majorly. I most probably won't be doing an assassin one again. But I do want to try and get some different content from a few places. Okay, it's mainly going to be Bell, Deku, what ifs mainly, but I do want to try and get a Luffy one in here and there. You may also be asking, where's what if Bell was a ranger? I am doing it. I'm still working on it. Things like this take time. And plus it doesn't help that I also hit a bit of a snag in my own life. I will admit I kind of got put in a bit of a depressed state, so I was going off for a bit. So yeah, I do apologise. Don't worry, it was just that my head sort of went into a dark place and I was kind of self-loathing myself at that time, so I do apologise. So back to the Luffy thing. Luffy, I know, has quite a bit of lore. I think Luffy is in the final war arc, I believe. I haven't seen it for a while, so sorry. So I believe Luffy is like in the middle of a war on Wano, something with beating Kaito, I think. And I think he was someone was dealing with Big Mum or something like that. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't caught up on it. But anyway, this story, when I talk about it, I'm going to be saying a few sort of wiser things. If none of you know who this character is, by the way, when I'm going to talk about this character, then I'll quickly give you a heads up. This character is from Avatar, The Last Airbender, the TV show, or the animated TV show, / the only movie that they have done. This person is, in the cartoon version, which is my favourite version of this character, a man called Uncle Iroh. Now, if you don't know who Uncle Iroh is, please go and watch what makes Iroh a beloved character. Because personally, to me, he comes up with quite a few good quotes. I have recently been watching Last Airbender, well, the Airbender series, not the Korra one, because that one's absolute shit. But anyway. So yeah, I'm going to be making a few quotes from the Avatar cartoon from Iroh, so please let me know what you think down below by liking, commenting, leave those comments down below. Please, every comment does help, and I do like actually reading them, even if some of them are negative and just criticising what I could and could not have done better. So anyway, like, comment, subscribe, see you on the next one, peace. So, we start this off with a man with greying hair, a greying beard, a black suit with a buttoned up t-shirt underneath that black suit and a tie, walking up to some sort of somewhat of dilapidated house. As the man would simply bang his fist against the wall, or consequently next to the door, as he stands there for a good 10 to 20 minutes, as he would bang his fist against the door once more, until he would just sigh and actually kick the door open. And when he walks Well, no, before he even remotely steps in. Dog, why do you have to start sneezing? Once he walks in. Well, no, sorry. Before he steps in, I really do need to keep up where I was. He gets a pungent smell of iron. He'd quickly cover his nostrils and walk. As he'd walk, he'd hear the drip, drip, drip of something clearly dripping on the floor from something above. As he would look around, he wouldn't see anything until splash. Now he'd look down. He couldn't see that much. And so he'd walk deeper in. Splash, splash, splash. The sound was everywhere. He found a light and lit it. It was a gas burner, or an oil burner, so he simply lit the thing and it came on. When he got a bit of light, he saw dead bodies. These people were the mountain bandits, from Curly Dana to all of her underlings, all killed in horrific ways. A lot of them seemed to have been either tortured or outright killed. As the man simply has his eyes widened as he wonders who the hell did this. More importantly, where's Luffy, Ace, and that Salvo kid? As the man would quickly get out and run to his boat. He gets his Vice Admiral Navy gear on, making his Marines think that they're about to go, only for him to quickly get off again and charge straight back up the mountain. His Marines, not understanding what's going on, a few of them would run up with him and ask Vice Admiral Garp what's going on. As Garp would just say shut up and continue following me. As Garp and the others would reach the hideout. As the men could smell the iron in the air, some of them just feel sick as they are new. As Garp walks in and he drags out all of the corpses. The ones who were new go green as, sick sea fish or fishmen with a bad stomach ache and find a bush and hurl whatever they had eaten recently. Some of the more veteran people had see this, the grimace, seeing such death. As Garp says, I want you men to bury all of these people properly. They deserve a proper grave, a proper burial. As the men would just shout, "I, Vice Admiral," they'd all go and grab shovels and begin digging graves for the 20-odd men and one woman to be put in for eternal rest. Garp would continue moving on, as his only fear is that the three boys he found to be like his actual grandkids, Ace, Salvo, even though they both aren't actually biologically related to him, he had a connection to them. He felt responsible for them. And I've got tetanus in my ear apparently, ow. And Luffy, he was responsible for him, because he was biologically his grandson. He had no idea who his mother is. His son just popped up one day and asked him to please look after Luffy. Something about him having a destiny. Something that Garp really didn't understand. His son, Dragon, if you haven't already guessed, pretty much said that his mother vanished. Although Garp could tell there was something he wasn't telling him, He knew that he had to hide his grandson somewhere. His son was a now very wanted criminal for what he had done. So he thought the mountain bandits on Fuchsia Village, or Fuchsia Island, would be more appropriate. He would walk through the forest. He would find rubble. Rubble of a treehouse. A treehouse he knew the three boys had gone to at a few points. The tree was upended and the treehouse was completely rubble, with splotches of blood here and there. His heart would race, fearing the worst for his, nephew and his grandkids. The grandkids of his. And so Garp would start picking up the pace more and more, following the blood, as he'd come to the ocean. A small part where a boat had clearly been wrecked. There was a large amount of blood on the sand, and footprints clearly leading away by the account of how far some stones had been pushed. Now, when he was last here, those stones weren't pushed that far into the sand, so clearly something heavier had pushed the stones into the sand. It also helps that there was a small hint of blood there, but since the waves have been lapping up the blood, it's going to be increasingly hard to follow it. He did very luckily, was able to still follow it, as he stumbled upon a cave where the blood seemed to have been going into. Next to this cave, though, going into it, was a water canal, big enough for a Sea King to fit in. He only hoped that this wasn't the Sea King's lair. And so Garp would quickly run in, shouting, "Ace! Salbo! Luffy! Are you here? Answer me, damn it!" As he'd run in, he'd see, a boy with a straw hat, black shorts and black boots, with blood running down his cheek, or both of his cheeks and his forehead, and some blood on his, torso, basically holding 2 lead pipes ready to fight, as he clearly is shaken, trembling, and is all in all in fear. As he would say, "Easy, Ace, easy, it's me, Garp." It is Garp who brought a lantern with him so he could see, puts it up to his face to show the relief and concern that a grandparent would show for their child or their grandchild. Ace's eyes would widen as he'd simply just drop the lead pipes. He would walk to Garp with one hell of a limp, as Garp would kneel down, placing the lantern down, and hugs him, as Ace cries, saying, Luffy's gone." Garp's eyes would widen as he would look at Ace and ask, "Where's Salbo?" He would once again cry, saying, "Salbo's dead." Garp would ask with shakiness, "Is Luffy..." As Ace would only close his eyes as tears would run down his cheeks. Garp's heart would drop like a lead stone into the ocean, as tears would well up in Garp's eyes, but he refused to let them fall, as he asks Ace, "What happened?" All Ace could say was that they were attacked by some sort of creature. The creature had protrusions out of its back and like claws on its front, coming out of some sort of spiny extra appendages. It was hideous and disgusting. It attacked with zero warning. Zalbo and Luffy were on the ocean, well, near the ocean, simply fishing when we were attacked. We ran to Curly Dana only to find she was already dead. Ace, me, Luffy ran straight back to the beach to try and get away, only for Salbo to be launched, blood gushing from his back and head, far away as the boat was ripped to sunders. Luffy had his chest pierced twice, and he was flung somewhere. I couldn't find him. The creature attacked me with ferocity, but I held it off as much as possible. And as if something was in its head, it screeched, then disappeared in some sort of black fog. As Garp's eyes would widen, as he would wonder about the ancient legends about mysterious creatures popping up out of nowhere to cause problems. As he'd wonder how bad it had gotten. Were these rumours and legends and myths even true? He'd pick up Ace and say, "We're not coming back here, Ace. I'm taking you with me to the Marines, to my boat with the Marines. We're getting you out of here. We're evacuating the entire island." And within months, at least 40 to 60 odd ships came along. Marines would run off. A cruise liner would be pulled up. The civilians would be herded onto the cruise boat as the Marines would all scream that they are getting out of here. There's something on this island that has just recently attacked. They made up one hell of a story about Grey Terminal, which was unfortunately burned down by the nobles, but they made it seem like when Grey Terminal was attacked and burned to try and kill whatever was attacking them. And so the civilians quickly believed it. Some didn't believe it because some didn't like the Marines, but if the Marines themselves were this panicked, it goes to show that they're not actually bullshitting. And, well, Makino, who Garp knew often looked over Luffy when he was here, she asked, "Where's Luffy?" Salbo, she did see Ace, but Ace refused to look at her. Garp mouthed, "They're both gone. Dead." He doesn't know what attacked. Sure, he does have a description of what it looked like, but Garp can't go across just on what a child saw. And so Makino, with tears, got on the boat. It wouldn't be until at least, 10 years until they could even remotely return to their little island, as the Marines did a thorough investigation to find out what happened. And it literally did take 10 years, and this was the 10 years that Garp needed to hide Ace once more. The Marines on his boat knew that Ace was the son of Goldie Rogers. Heck, Garp was the only man who could take on Goldie Rogers and live. Heck, they even heard Garp say that they both had one hell of a friendship. Sure, he was a pirate, but the Goldie Rogers fought alongside, Monkey D. Garp to take down, the biggest, baddest villain that had at least 3 of the monsters of the seas, aka the Emperors. Kaido, Big Mom, and Whitebeard as his crew members. And so, with that all said, Garp would still be wondering where Luffy is. He had this sinking feeling that when Luffy was flung, Ace may have missed something. Just like he had missed something possibly with Salbo. Salbo most probably had lived. Ace didn't say how bad the wounds were due to him still being in shock and fear. But he just hoped that Luffy was out there somewhere. 1 minute. Out on a island big enough to hold a pretty decently large civilization, a boy with, well, long hair, around about 7 foot in height. I know pretty tall, but hey, it's just how he grew. Would be standing at the beach with, well, just a pair of underwear on. As he'd have his arms folded and looking out the ocean. As he'd breathe in and out with, well, the sigh of general contentment. The only thing that you would have noticed from him were the, well, 2 large scars on his chest, making some sort of an, well, shallow X. As he'd look out over the ocean and smile, as he could hear footsteps. And then some slim arms go over his, well, shoulders and around his arms in general, as 2 mounds would be placed on his back, as a smile would be placed over his lips, as he'd lean his head back, feeling something gently rub against his ear and rest next to his face, and a contented sigh leaving the lips of this individual, as he'd softly mumble, "Good morning, Yamato." As Yamato, with her horns, would sigh and giggle lightly as she says, "Good morning, Luffy." And she kiss his cheek. As Luffy would smile as he would place one hand, well, both hands behind him, as Yamato would gently groan as she could feel her buttocks being, well, gently massaged. As Yamato, sorry, not Minato. Yamato would let loose a small groan as she would say in his ear, "Don't start things you can't finish." As Luffy would smile, saying, "Oh, like I can't finish what you started yesterday night?" As Yamato would only sigh with a happy look to her face, as all she could say was, "I can still feel it. My ass is numb due to what we did last night. You are more of a monster than I am, with my horns." And she giggled with excitement and a little bit of drool slightly leaking from her lips as she remembers the very feisty and very, very rough sexual escapades that they were up to during the night. Luffy would chuckle as one arm would leave her butt and gently caress her cheek, making her sigh once more in contentment. Eventually Luffy would let her butt go, and Yamato would let his whole body go as well. As he turn around and, well, turn his body slightly so he can look her in the face, and she would look at him in the face too, as their heads get closer and their lips meet. And so just hear another voice. Am I interrupting something? Both, even in the middle of a kiss, would quickly break and look to their right to see a woman with long golden hair and, well, two golden wings, jutting out of her back, directly where her shoulder blades would be. And she'd look at them both with a smile that said she knew what they were doing last night. It was also confirmed that she knew when she giggled and said, "When will I be expecting my grandkids?" As Luffy would chuckle as he would just say, "Mom, we're not going to have babies just yet." As the woman would giggle, saying, "Oh, Luffy, I know you're not going to have babies just yet. But someone over there is, well, tightly holding herself as if to not jump you." As your mother would blush a crimson look as she would try to hide behind Luffy to hide her embarrassment, as Luffy would just chuckle as he'd hold on to your mother's hands, as he'd kiss them both, as he would just say to his mother that she's only saying that because she's jealous because she couldn't have another son or another child. The woman would pout, but then give him a sly smirk and say, "At least I didn't go at it nearly, I don't know, for the last 72 hours? Only for Luffy to laugh and say it's actually 20. It was only for 24 hours. Not 72 hours. Making Yamato kind of giggle but blush, considering that, yeah, for a whole day and night they were busy having their sensual time. Luffy's mother would just shrug as her wings would disappear into her back as she'd walk up. She's actually a lot shorter than both of them combined, as they both have to look down on her. And she quickly just jumps up onto Luffy's shoulders, or shoulder, and she looks at them both with a sigh that said that she was gonna miss them both. And she'd remember the day that, well, she met Luffy. Flashback 10 years ago. A 6-year-old Luffy had just crashed onto this island due to being teleported. He was in pain, sobbing and crying as he wonders where he was and if Grandpa Garp's going to find him. As he would struggle to get up, the pain he was in was too much. As he cried and cried, as he'd run to try and find a way to cover the wounds so he didn't bleed out. That is until he'd stumble upon a very interesting sight. Something leaning up against the trees. Luffy couldn't tell what it was because there was a lot of things covering it, such as an overbrush of weeds and all that. And Luffy, regardless of the consequences, pulled all the weeds off and away, getting stung by stinging nettles, stabbed by thorn bushes, all this. So he was covered in welts and cuts as he uncovers what was there, or what the weeds were hiding. And what they were hiding was a statue. A stone statue of a woman looking down at her arms as if there was something there that she was missing. Luffy, still bleeding, would try and figure out what she was missing. So he'd check all over, not noticing that his blood dripped on to her body. And because of the general exhaustion that Luffy was facing due to having the X mark on his chest from shoulder blade to hips, he eventually passed out due to the blood that he had lost. But instead of falling onto the concrete, he felt two soft arms caress him and gently lean him down, as a woman's voice would say, "Hello, my son." And the flashback is, well, Luffy would sadly look down along with his mother. He'd softly sigh, saying, "Well, enough of that depressing factor. I believe you two need to go." And she'd smile. And she'd click her fingers as the ocean would bubble and boil a little as a boat would emerge, freshly cleaned and conditioned. Luffy and Yamato would look at her and she'd smile. And she'd just softly say, "Remember, I'll always be with you. Just say my name and I will help. I'll be there." She'd turn around and her golden wings would appear again. And she'd walk into the forest. A bright flash and she would be gone. As Luffy and Yamato would hold hands and whisper goodbye. "Mum." Well, Luffy would say goodbye, Mum. Well, Yamato would say, "Goodbye, Lady Gabriel." Yes, Gabriel. Don't like it? Tough. Bite me. And so Luffy and Yamato would get into the boat and they'll begin setting sail. Of course, they already had enough stuff to set sail, and they did. 1 minute. On the ocean, Luffy pulled, two sails out as they got more and more speed. As Yamato would pretty much come out in nothing but a bathing suit. And she'd sigh, saying, "Damn it, Luffy, I was planning to sit in the sun today. Couldn't you just have, I don't know, pulled the big main mast out and not the small front one too?" As Luffy would look at her with a sheepish look on his face. "Sorry, but the wind's getting up and I want to try and catch as much wind as we can. You know how things go." "Yeah, I know how things go, but damn it, I wanted to get some sun on my skin." "Yamato, you're as beautiful anyway. You don't have to look like you're godly tanned." "Hey, a girl's gotta keep her priorities straight, Luffy." "Maybe, but come on. Leave it for a bit. And besides, you get plenty of sun when the wind breaks down for a bit. Hopefully. That's if we don't meet a calm belt anywhere around here." "Well, I doubt we'll meet one around here. It's usually near the Grand Line that the Red Line was where you'll meet the calm belts and all that. Are you sure we don't have any repellers on this thing? Could always keep us moving so we don't need to use the sun. Or need to use the wind. I prefer to use the wind. Sure, a repeller would be good, but in the end, what can you do? You can't. Besides, I wonder where my mother hid this thing. Honestly, it is made out of wood, but it's got an underlining of metal as well. So your mother must have kept it hidden pretty well, especially with her power. Yeah, I guess you're right. Anyway, there's a spot up there if you want to go and grab it. Sure. You coming to join? Nah. Gotta try and keep us on course. Although we're both not very good with, well, keeping ourselves on course, let alone anything else. Should take us a few days to find somewhere. Who knows? Perhaps we might find a place sooner than we think. Well, that's your hoping. My hoping is I just hope we don't run into anything, you know, completely out of our depths. Completely out of our depths? Luffy, I know you're stronger than even me. You just refuse to use that strength of yours. For good reasons. I don't want to hurt people. At least, not that badly. Not unless they truly deserve it. To be hurt that bad. You, I just know you just go around with that giant weapon of yours and smash the heads in. That animal deserved it. For starters, it scared the living daylights out of me when I was having a bath. Yeah, you smashed it so hard it flew into me and I was just walking past at the time. I didn't even know you were there until you smacked it into me. And that's the day you saw me naked. Yeah, I also remember the day you saw me naked too. Yes, and I still can't believe you got a big one. Really? You're going to bring that up now? What? Both of them just laughed off. This was just one of their usual conversations that they usually have. Yamato got a, well, sunbed, or a lawn chair, I believe is what they're called. Sunbeds, lawn chairs, where it just can be modified to go all the way back and lift your feet up. I believe, if I'm wrong, please let me know. And she would begin sunbathing. Luffy would be on the, well, on deck, where the boat steering parts are, and pretty much begin steering the boat on the water. As he would sigh, wondering how long it would take him to get to a port town. Hopefully pretty quickly, but you can never tell with these kinds of things. Of course, it wasn't all fairy tales. On their travels, they did meet a bit of a problem. A few pirates thought that it would be smart to board the ship. Mainly because they saw Yamato sunbathing and said, yeah, we're going to take her. She's a babe and and the captain said, I want her as my bitch. The rest of the crew didn't mind. Because honestly, she was a looker. Quite beautiful, quite busty too. And all of them wanted to have a bit of a go of her. Too bad Yamato had a massive club with her. As she saw them, she pretty much grabbed it and smacked them all off of the boat. With very little effort. The pirate captain did try to converse her and convince her to join him in his room. Completely unaware of how quickly she had just dealt with his crew. Sorry about that. Yamato didn't really fancy just sticking around near a guy who honestly didn't get the hint that she was definitely not interested in him. And so she decided, I think I'm gonna beat you so hard in the head you're actually gonna realise that piracy isn't for you. And she proceeded to not use her club but her fists to not only knock the guy's, well, a few of the guy's teeth out, but busted his nose, lip, cracked his skull a little, and busted at least 2 of his ribs, threw him off the deck, and smashed him into his own boat. For a crew of around about 20, that boat was not very clean, not very stable either, as it proceeded to sink. Yeah. Yamano kind of asked herself rather loudly, how the hell does a single guy hit the boat like that and it then decides to sink? Luffy just looks at her and just shrugs, as he did kind of wonder why Yamada was screaming like, "Take this, you perv! Take that! Take this!" He was going to come out pretty much fists a-blazing to beat the guys who dare touch his woman, but just stood to the side really with a ladle in one hand and a pot with food in the other, as he just pretty much watched the show and couldn't help but admit that Yamato is she's rather violent. But he couldn't help but also watch the her chest bounce every time that she swung that goddamn weapon. You'll admit he started pitching a slight tent because of her sexiness, out of his own personal opinion. As he would walk back into the, galley, he'd begin finishing off the food again. He would come out. As he'd say, great strength has to come with great wisdom. As your mother would just look at him with an eyebrow raised, and she'd just comically say, "So you did pay attention to what your mother said about with great power comes great responsibility." As Luffy would pout, saying, "Yes, I did listen to what my mother said. What do you think I am, dumb?" Joanna would just give him the eyebrow that says, "Don't tempt me to say it." As Luffy would just look away from her and pout, saying, "Bully." Yamada only giggled and said, "Oh, calm down. You love me, really." Luffy would just give her the eye that says, "I wonder sometimes," making Yamato pout this time, thinking, what did she do to get a bad boyfriend? And so both of them would finish up their dinner, because really it was like around about 12:30 in the afternoon since those pirates decided that they were going to turn up. And Luffy was literally making dinner for them both. And Luffy got back to steering the boat, and Yamato decided she's going to do a bit of yoga. Now you may be wondering, yoga? Really? Where the hell does she get the stuff to do yoga from? You can pretty much do yoga wherever you want to do it, really. A lot of people do it in the park. Mainly, it's mostly women most of the time, but some men do it as well. Just not all the time. While Luffy was piloting the boat, Yamato was pretty much doing her yoga. They both pretty much talk about what's going to happen and what is happening as a news seagull would fly down, squawking as, Luffy pays him a few, gold coins and gets a few berry, because that's the currency. Basically, to berry to get a newspaper. And while they're still going off in the same direction anyway, so it's perfectly fine for him to leave the steering wheel. Pretty much read it. Just say something about Alabasta. So you wonder why Alabasta is now in the middle of a civil war. You might even look over his shoulder and basically whistle, saying, "Damn. You're in a civil war about something stupid again?" Luffy would look at her and say, "I doubt it. I doubt it, Yamato. I really do doubt it." So, with that, the pyramids read the rest of it. Impel Down had a few breakouts. Um, Vice Admiral Garp is still in a deep depression about the loss of his grandson. The Revolutionary Army had started ramping up its anti-government attacks on government-held bases. Luffy would kind of cringe. He knew all about his father from his mother. You can't say he doesn't like the guy, but you can't exactly see what's wrong with what the government is actually doing. Sure, the government is hiding up what happened in the Void Century, which Gabriel did tell Luffy that the Void Century was something that even angels don't talk about. Because in the Void Century, there was nothing but war between angels and, well, demons. And one of those demons took over a man called Rox, or monkey, something called D-Rox or something like that. Some weird name that he called himself eventually, but hey. And so, that was really it. Luffy didn't know anything else. His mother was less likely to talk about it than any other angel, but hey. But he does wonder where the rest of his kind are. He may be a hybrid of human and angel, but still, he does wonder where the rest of his kind is. Are they up in heaven, or are they just skulking around in the shadows, hiding in plain sight, and only an angel could tell another angel apart from humans? Yamato, seeing what her boyfriend is thinking, would pinch him on the arm, saying, "Quit thinking about it. You won't know until you find out." As Luffy would kind of rub his arm where she pinched him. He'd just grin and say, "I know." And so, after that, he would get back on the steering wheel. Yamato would clean the deck while Luffy was still trying to follow a map, and grumbling about finding a navigator so they can, drive around much more easier. Yamato would just shrug. That is until they came across a couple of days, nearly a month later, they came across a very confusing sight, and a sight that kind of made both Luffy and Yamato think, okay, the fuck? 1 minute. They saw a pink ship with hearts on it, and a skull with a heart behind it. As both Yamato and Luffy both say, that ship is the ugliest fucking thing we have ever seen on that can even sail the ocean. And we are on a ship nearly 2 times bigger than it. Why the hell does it look like a love heart? As the ship basically pulls up next to them, and pirates quickly come over. All of them are kind of, burly and skinny. Some look a little bit fat too. No offense to anybody who is fat, by the way. No offense to you guys. Yamato, who had gotten dressed since, they were approaching a boat, so she didn't want people to come over and see her, half naked, grabbed her massive mace and began beating them, along with Luffy just going around punching them in the face. As they get aboard the boat, just to really teach these guys a lesson, they see the most hideous woman they could ever fucking see. Yamato just makes the off comment of who brought the walking, talking whale, because the woman was extremely overweight, holding a big ass iron club, which honestly both her and Luffy are surprised that she can even hold. A pink checkered buttoned up shirt, a purple sash around her midsection with a pistol and some gold items apparently. some shorts that look like they can barely hold her girth back, along with red shoes with gold buckles over the top, a blue jumper with gold outlinings, a hat with a red plume to it, shaggy black hair, beady black eyes, a chubby face that even makes a chipmunk look slim, and a red bandana around her neck, and painted red fingernails. And she says she's Alberta, the most beautiful woman on the seas. And her men pretty much say the same thing, that she is the most beautiful woman on the seas. But even Luffy can see that all of them don't really mean it. All of them know that she is the ugliest bitch on the sea ever, and she has the temper of a bulldog. Luffy looks at Yamato, who looks at him, and Yamato's cheeks slowly turn red as she tries to hold back her laughter, until she literally does burst out laughing and falls to the ground, actually holding her guts, because this woman said that she's the most beautiful woman on the seas. Yamato just screams in laughter and hysterics that she's a walking, talking pit bull that's so overweight that it wouldn't be able to, well, stand up on a hill without rolling back down it. This makes Alberta's eyes twitch as a throbbing vein would appear, as she says, "Fine bitch, you die," for insulting the great Alberta. She basically waddles up with quite the force as the boat just rocks due to her weight. She then goes to slam the giant iron club down on, well, Yamato's head, only for Yamato to basically glare and say, "I would have really thought you'd be smarter than that." Oh, honey. Alberta would wonder who the fuck she's saying "oh, honey" to, as a fist basically hits her smack in the face. The fat on her face basically folds around the punch, as Alberta pretty much goes spinning up in the air and into the ocean. A single shot. And there is smoke coming from her face. And there's also smoke on the hand or the fist that punched her. And it's Luffy. Now be aware, Luffy's almost the same height as Yamato. He is 7 foot in height. So everybody's seeing two fucking giants in their eyes, basically standing there in front of them. Well, one lying on the ground laughing, was previously laughing her guts out, but yeah. Now there's the guy who she was with, pretty much standing over her with one fist out, and another one cocked behind his back, getting ready to basically throttle anybody else. As he basically grits his teeth and says, "Next, one to laugh at my girlfriend will be going 6 feet under." The pirates, scared enough as it is, just drop their weapons and put their hands up. It's like, fuck that, we're not dealing with you. Luffy just simply said, "Good. Give us what you have, bring it up here, we'll be putting it on our boat. You, all after this, will be taking that whale of a woman to the nearest marine base and handing yourselves in. If you don't, I'll personally find you and beat you all black and blue. Until you do put yourselves behind bars. Got it?" A chorus of "yes, sir" would be heard as a lot of berry, a lot of food, mostly, a lot of food, would be placed on the upper decks with a cabin boy with pink hair and glasses and snot running out of his nose, clearly fucking terrified. Both Luffy and Yamato look at the boy with absolute fucking confusion. They'd look to the crew. Luffy would just point to one and ask, "Who's the pipsqueak?" the one who actually didn't harass Kobe, the boy by the way, pretty much sheepishly scratched the back of his head saying, well, you see, the pipsqueak, as you called him, accidentally got on one of our boats, and he pretty much bursts out crying, saying we basically had to basically forced him to be our cabin boy because he's good with maps. Alberta always threatens to kill him, and some of us actually tried to help the boy out as much as possible without Alberta killing us. Luffy and Yamato just nods, like, okay, then, we get the message now. Alberta was the biggest whore you could ever see in the ocean. Right, got it. This was being a massive whale that can walk on land. Still doesn't mean that you guys are going to prison. So, get to it. Kid, boat's that way. Get on board, we'll take you somewhere. And so, Kobe, with happiness, tears running down his eyes and snot, would basically hug Luffy, rubbing his face into Luffy's leg, leaving snot trails and water trails too on Luffy's trousers. Luffy just grins lightly, but outwardly he's basically saying, dude, gross. I know I saved you from a life of misery and all that, but did you seriously have to wipe your snot all over my trousers? Mum's definitely going to kill me if she ever saw this. Yamato basically was giggling, knowing exactly what was going through her boyfriend's head. It was pretty much written all over his face, so it's kind of hard not to see it. And after Kobe had finished crying, saying thank you, the other pirates had already pushed all the stuff towards where Luffy's ship is. They see how big it is, as it nearly is 2 times the size of their crappy ship anyway. One of them actually kind of looked at it and basically said to his friends, you know, this ship actually looks pretty sweet. His friends and cohorts basically nod and say, yeah, why couldn't we make a ship like that? Hey, didn't one of us have a job in the shipbuilding business at one point before he went pirate? I believe that was Johnny, and I believe he said something to Alberta and got his head smashed in. Ah, right. Oh yeah, I remember good old Johnny. Yeah, good man. Always did lose at poker though. So yeah, after that, Luffy got onto the ship. And he left. And the pirates basically said to themselves, well fuck, what now? And, well, they all decided, you know what, fuck it. He said go and hand ourselves in, that's what we're going to do. And they turn around and walk. They do find where Alberta had landed. And honestly, her eyes are still embedded in her skull, along with the imprint of the fist smashing her in the face. It took pretty much all of the crew to drag her cold, unconscious body onto the boat. As the boat suddenly sank a bit, as they all realised why they weren't going so fast, it was because of this fucking whale of a woman. And so they made their way to the nearest marine base. Yeah. Unfortunately, it was the same one Luffy was going to. 1 minute. So, with that, Kobe pretty much navigated Luffy and Yamato straight to, well, Shell's Town. No surprise to anybody who've actually watched the anime / read the manga or light novel. Shell's Town is not the best place to be, especially with Axe Hand Morgan. And so when they got there, they got off the boat, found a restaurant, Luffy did mention that something about Rora, Nora, Zoro. Everybody was scared and went to the walls, which caused Luffy, Yamato, and Kobe to look at each other. Kobe was scared of Rora, Nora, Zoro because of his reputation, but when he mentioned Axe Hand Morgan, everybody did go up the walls and was hanging onto the ceiling, causing both Luffy and Yamato would look at each other. Yamato would mouth, "Corrupted." Luffy would nod and mouth, "Corrupted Marine, great." He must be as Luffy would not say out loud, he must be taxing the innocent civilians here. This is not how Marine operates. And, well, the mother of Reika would pretty much explain all about what Axe Hand Morgan has pretty much been doing to them. Luffy does grit his teeth because he finds this absolutely fucking disgusting. A Marine should not be abusing their power like this. They are meant to be protecting the people. All he can see Axe Hand Morgan doing is just lining his own pockets with money. He even mumbles about his grandfather. As if grandfather was here, he would literally beat Axe Hand Morgan to a living pulp. Speaking of which, he needs to find a Den Mushi to call Garp. And honestly, to see if he can actually get here as quick as possible. Because this is something that he needs to tell his grandfather about. And plus catch up with him. And explain that he is alive. Kobe kind of asks who Luffy's grandfather is. The whole room kind of wondering as well. Because by the way the boy was sounding, his grandfather thinks he's dead. His Monkey D. Luffy says with a sad smile, "Monkey D. Garp." Everybody would be shocked. Monkey D. Garp was the hero of the Navy, and this boy is his grandson. Or is it his son? No, wait, he said grandpa. So yes, this boy was his grandson. Luffy pretty much looked at Kobe, who basically had the look of awe and hero worship. Almost. But Luffy pretty much just bonks him on the head, saying, "Don't get your hopes up. He may come here as quick as he can just to beat me over the head for not getting in contact with him for such a long time." His Luffy pretty much ordered some food. With the berry that he had got given anyway, he paid Reika's mother. Reika gives him the food until the doors bust open, and a guy with onion-like hairstyle and a chin that looks like two nutsacks, or a nutsack, believe it or not, pretty much barges in, says, "Woman, get me some food, I'm starving over here." The two Marines clearly are agitated and don't want to be there. Luffy and Yamato could both see this, as they both give hateful glares towards the onion-haired man, or onion hairstyled looking man. Both of them silently growl and mutter about insignificant little whelp. Kobe thinks that it's normal for Marines to think of that, but Luffy and Yamato both glare. Of course, Helmeppo doesn't see it like that. They look like they're just confused. And he doesn't think of them as anything but trash. His dad is the Marine captain. He can make their lives living hell. Of course, when Reika Reika's mother gives them the food. Helmeppo touches her inappropriately. This doesn't happen in canon, by the way. I'm just making it happen so Helmeppo gets punched in the face. Helmeppo then says that he's planning to kill Roronoa Zoro because watching him suffer was funny. But now it has gotten boring. And since he was touching Reika's mother inappropriately, one hand on her butt, and making its way even lower, Luffy and Yamato stand. The two Marines get ready for action because these two are 8 foot. 8'7" and 8'8" in height. Both of them walk up, and as if Helmeppo was completely unaware of this and never knew it was coming, because he didn't, both of them pretty much screamed, "Arsehole." And Helmeppo felt 2 fists, one in his gut and one in his face. Luffy got him in the gut, while Yamato got him smack bang in the face, and sent him through the wall sideways. The two Marines pretty much get ready to attack, only for Luffy to appear right beside both of them and smack their heads together, knocking them out. Luffy would then open the door and allow Yamato first, being a proper gentleman even in a combat zone that they've now just created, as they both just storm out and go straight to the Marine Fortress. Helmeppo pretty much got up and ran off to go and tell his daddy that, two commoners punched him, deal with them. And I know this is going a bit quick, but honestly, we both know Reika is trying to feed Zoro. She was on her way to feed Zoro some food anyway. With Zoro, he did see Reika. Zoro is still the same guy we all know and love. He does not have the attitude of Reika. I'm just going to say this. He knows sensory haki. The only reason why he was being an arsehole towards Reika was because he could feel Helmeppo, Luffy and Kobe looking at him. But since nobody is around, he was actually quite nice and actually talked to Reika quite handedly. The Marines left him alone because they didn't like what Helmeppo had done. And so when Helmeppo came running past the gates, crying about some 2 people punching him, Zoro just grit his teeth, saying, "Damn weakling," as his eyes had pretty much been focused on where Helmeppo had gone. He didn't see 2 people approach him. Zoro was just eyes closed, shaking his head, saying, "What an absolute moron." As he hears a woman's voice saying, "Yeah, he is a moron, especially for wanting to kill you because he got bored of seeing you suffer." As his head would snap towards the voice, he would have to look up, considering there's 2 8-foot people in front of him. Zoro would think, "Oh fuck, who have I offended this time to get these 2?" The whole shtick happens again with Luffy asking Zoro to join his crew. Not as a pirate, because, well, Luffy A doesn't want to be a pirate, because, well, his dream is undecided yet. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He wants to explore, he knows that. And so with Zoro asking him why should he has to survive another day at least, Luffy pretty much says Helmeppo is going to kill you because he got bored of watching you, laughing at your suffering because he was never going to agree to keep the deal going. Of course, Reika's mother had told them all about what Zoro did to Helmeppo's pet wolf, cut it down to save Reika. Of course, he agreed to the punishment, believing that Helmeppo was going to keep to the agreement. So hearing that Helmeppo wasn't, of course, Zoro was going to be pissed. So Luffy went to go and get Zoro's swords. Of course, he went to go and get Helmeppo because he wanted Helmeppo to tell him where Zoro's swords would be. When Helmeppo pretty much pointed him towards his room, which had had my room on it, Luffy basically broke the doors down to see it all girlified, with pink duvet with flower patterns on it and some curtains and 3 swords in a corner, one with a white sheath. Luffy looked directly at Helmeppo and said, "You're a guy, right?" Helmeppo would look at him and say, "Hey, don't judge my sense of colour, okay? I like pink." Luffy just shakes his head and says, "You're the weirdest twit I've ever seen." Personally, I don't have a problem with pink. If anybody likes it, then you like it. Me, I personally hate the colour pink. It has always rubbed me the wrong way. And so, yeah. Luffy just then slams Helmeppo into the doorframe, knocking him out. Not drawing blood, but keeping Helmeppo out for a very long time. Of course, he did ruin Axe-Hand Morgan's statue. So when he looked out, he did see Axe-Hand Morgan with a bunch of Marines aiming directly at Yamato. Now, there's one thing you don't do, well, 2 things you don't do around Luffy. Bully innocent children and aim to kill Yamato. He is very, very, very fucking protective of her. And when he saw this, his eyes went a golden colour. His iris, all of it went golden. As the Marines were aiming, well, down on the ground, as the Marines were aiming directly at Yamato and Zoro, and Kobe, who decided he was going to turn up for some odd reason to get Zoro out, boom! An explosion rips through the tower. All the Marines would look up, including Axe-Hand Morgan, wondering what the hell exploded, as a golden sheen come flying out of the dust, as Yamato's eyes would widen. She'd whisper, "Luffy!" Zoro would look and say, "The hell? What the hell's with the big light?" As it streaks straight towards them, Zoro would think it's about to hit Kobe and him and Yamato, only for it to crash right down in front of Yamato, as, well, the golden light would only grow in intensity, causing the Marines to actually drop the guns and actually have to cover their eyes due to how bright it is. Morgan using his big axe to do the same. He was actually quite scared of what the fuck's going on. As they'd hear a voice that would chill them to the bone. "You dare raise your rifles against her. You dare try to kill a child for just wanting to help. You cowards would fear your own captain. There is more of you than there is of him." As the eyes, well, the body would stop glowing, as the Marines would see the golden glowing eyes of Luffy. As Yamato basically was about to hug him to get him to calm down, as golden wings would pop out of his back. Well, pure white wings with a golden strip across the top would pop out of his back. It's just not one pair of wings. Oh no, it's, well, two pairs of wings. I'm getting this from High School DxD, so do apologise. The only reason why Gabriel only had one pair of wings was because she was hiding the other 7 pairs. So yeah. So with those 4 pairs of wings out with a golden strip over the top of them, their eyes would widen. The Marines would all drop their weapons and actually kneel, as for what they see is a god, a godly figure, as they all whisper about angels being real. They must be here. He must be here to smite the evil of the world. Pray for forgiveness. I know religion can kind of get twisted here and there, such as what's a good example? You know what? No, I actually can't think of a good example. Fuck. Anyway, so they basically be bowing, hands in a prayer motion. One of them even got a few prayer beads and a cross, and pretty much had them in that whole "Oh Holy Father" praying motion. Luffy could see that all these Marines, from just their general aura, were that of, we're scared of our captain. And with his power out, he could actually read their minds, saying, if he's here to smite the evil, our captain is definitely evil. He has been punishing us for just the simplest of things. They don't even have their thoughts about several of their best friends who were killed by Axe and Morgan just for standing up to him. Luffy sees this and hears it in their minds. He looks at Morgan, who doesn't seem to be at all remorseful about what he's doing, as he even kills 2 of his own and swears at them because they're being cowards. It's just a pretty little light show, as he demands them to kill themselves in order of his greatness. Luffy, hearing this, would stare at Morgan and say he is unworthy of life. And Yamato backs off. She backs off majorly because she has an idea of what's about to happen. She has never seen him this pissed, but seeing him this pissed now, she has a feeling that Morgan's about to meet the underworld personally, being delivered by Luffy himself. Morgan killed 1 more of his guys because he could, to show that he truly just didn't care. He was pissed. He was so pissed that these people just willingly bow down to this strange boy with his glowing body and his glowing golden eyes and his oddly very scary white wings with a golden strip over the top of them. He doesn't care. They're meant to be Marines, following his orders, his greatness. And he personally made sure he told them this. He'll tell them this after he's killed this washout reject. And he charges, as he says, "Watch this, my useless men. This is how you finish this battle with my greatness." Luffy just basically moved, and with a swiftness, you could just literally hear him say, "Nah, bitch, you ain't shit." Crunch and bang. Luffy would send Morgan flying into the brick wall. All of the brick wall came down on top of Morgan. Now you would say, well, that was an easy fight. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Morgan's out cold like a lamppost because he went headfirst into the bloody concrete. Or into the concrete brick wall. So yeah, of course he's going to be knocked out. The Marines, forgetting that Luffy's looking pissed still, would all screaming, yes, finally someone has dealt with Morgan. We're now free. Luffy, calming down, would walk up to Yamato. She would walk up to him and basically wrap her arms around him, managing to place his head just on the top of her bust as she cries, saying, "Don't scare me like that again." Of course, it gets interrupted by Helmeppo actually screaming, saying, "Stay back, or otherwise I blow this kid's head off." He kind of quickly gets shit-faced scared when Zoro sort of turns up, cuts the damn gun in, well, 4/4, and sticks 2 blades right next to Helmeppo's neck. As he says, in a gruff and harsh tone, saying, "You broke our deal. I think your punishment's only fair if you end up suffering the same thing I had suffered, for your own sick enjoyment." And before Helmeppo could say anything, Zoro punched him. Somebody passed him some rope, and Helmeppo was the one tied to a cross. Zoro went back with Reika, Luffy, and Yamato, while the Marines sort their own problems out, with Morgan now being gone, and Helmeppo now basically on the stockade for his crimes. Luffy was in the restaurant with Zoro, who everybody was surprised of how much and how fast he was eating as his stomach turned bloated. As he would just say, "God, I'm stuffed." Well, the final plate would be finished. Reiko's mother would be more than happy to take it all away and wash it. As Zoro would just say, "I've been starved for 29 days. Hell, I actually had to eat my own bootlace. Was about to get ready to eat my own goddamn bootlace." As Luffy would just wave it off, saying, "Just happy to get to you before Helmeppo killed you." And with all that laugh and joke, Zoro would see how close Luffy and this Yamato chick were. Sure, Yamato's actually not his type. She's quite tall and all that. There's no way he would be able to get an actual fight out of her, because, well, if he went anywhere near her, Luffy would most probably kill him. And he much more fancied his chances of being alive. And so, yeah, Zoro agreed to be his, well, second in command. Only to get shot down by saying, "I'm sorry, but Yamato's my second in command." Is Yamato basically smile, give a 2-fingered salute, and she'd basically give her boyfriend a big sloppy kiss. That kind of made Zoro's skin crawl a little, because he didn't need to see that amount of affection in one day, and they've only just met. But hey, who's he to complain? If his captain has a girlfriend already, his captain has a girlfriend. And so Zoro would say, "Fine, Captain, I'll be with you all the way." As he just tells him about his dream of being the greatest swordsman, so if he got in the way, girlfriend or not, he would cut him down. Luffy would just smile, saying, "I'd never dream of getting in your way. If you want to be the greatest swordsman, you be the greatest swordsman. I'll be with you all the way to help you." but it doesn't mean that you're not the only swordsman out there. As Luffy, well, reached into his pocket, and Zoro would wonder why he's reaching into his pocket, most probably to sort his Johnson out, but surprise, surprise, a sheathed katana would come out of that pocket, which honestly made everybody wonder how the fuck did that pocket have a katana in there? As Yamada would giggle and whisper to Zoro, saying that it's something that he can actually do. His clothing have, interdimensional pockets in them. He can either use them normally or use the, separate pocket space to actually pull out anything he needs. It's where he keeps his actual weaponry. Zoro kind of looks at her and nods and wonders, does he hide a goddamn cannon in there as well then? But he wasn't going to ask because he dreads the answer to it. But hey, Zoro pretty much pays for his food. The Marines do walk in and say, "Are you pirates?" Luffy says no, they're not pirates. They were just people just generally coming around doing their own thing. Luffy even says they're just exploring, because it's their first time really being on the ocean. They've only been on the ocean for at least a month. That's it. Captain Ripper, the new guy, would say, "Well, you did help us, and we thank you for that, truly. But since you did fight a Marine captain, we unfortunately do need to put you down as pirates." Zoro would kind of be pissed, but Luffy would calm him down, saying, "I understand. By the way, do you have a Den Den Mushi? Because there's someone I need to get in contact with. It's a Vice Admiral who I need to talk to." Ripper pulls out a Den Den Mushi and passes it to him, as he basically dials a few numbers. His mother told him how it works. As the Den Den Mushi goes Piro Piro, Piro Piro, Piro Piro click, as a gruff voice would say, "Yeah, what do you want? Is this Vice Admiral Garp?" As the voice would say, "Yeah, what do you want?" As everybody would be shocked. As the boy would just grin, saying, "Well, Gramps, I think you're missing a grandson, aren't you?" As the Den Den Mushi's eyes would narrow, and an angry tone of voice would speak through, "Watch what you say, boy. My grandson's out there somewhere, so you better tell me what you know." And as Luffy would laugh, saying, "Grandpa, it's me, Luffy. I'm in Shellstown." As nothing would be said for a while, as the Den Den Mushi would just stop. It'd just go to sleep. As Luffy's eyes would blink, saying, "The cheeky old man, he just hung up on me." Everybody would kind of have a sweat drop on their heads, considering it sounded like the guy really didn't want to talk about his grandson. Clearly must have thought something about him being dead or something like that. As the Marines kind of look at each other, it's like, did we just seriously hear this right now? We're talking to the grandson of Vice Admiral Garp, the boy who we've all been told was out there somewhere, considered to still be alive, although he was told that he was killed by that Ace boy. They'd all kind of look at Luffy, who's still kind of pissed that his granddad just, hung up on him, by the obvious annoyed pout on his face. He'll just simply pass the Den Den Mushi back, and it's like, "Well, have you got any rooms in the Marine base? I think he's going to want to see us, or see me, as soon as he arrives." The Marines do kind of take him with them, because honestly they want to know what the hell's going on. It doesn't take more than a month for Garp to turn up, and when Garp does, he books it. straight for the Marine base, because that's the first place he thinks Luffy's going to be. Which he wasn't wrong. He did see a man with green hair, 3 swords, a white t-shirt and dark green trousers and dark green shoes, standing near a restaurant. A woman with long hair, horns on her head, and sort of dark yellowish eyes. The same getup she has in the Wano arc as well. So, well, where Luffy meets her and Wano. So, Garp books it all the way there, and standing in front of the Marine Fortress doors would be Captain Ripper, who'd open the doors and say, "Your guest is waiting for you, Vice Admiral." Garp would just shout, "Where?" He would just say, "Top level, on the roof." That's where he said he wanted to meet you. Garp doesn't even bother taking the stairs. He fucking jumps all the way up there, using his haki to do so. When he lands, he looks pissed. He would see a boy with his back turned, fucking massively tall and muscular, as he'd just simply chuckle and say, "Hey, Gramps." As Luffy would turn and pretty much, well, kneel down to be virtually shorter than Garp so he can actually hug him properly. Been a while. As Garp just says, "Luffy." And that's where I'm ending it, people. Hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.